WOCA. Ocala.
All right, 22 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. I guess a lot of people know that I write songs, and let me just tell you a little bit about the songwriting experience. Usually what happens is that there's an idea, and once there's an idea, there's a lot of excitement in me to get this song written, right? It's just a lot of excitement. And then I can't wait till I have a moment when I can write it. Usually I'll scribble a couple things down, and then by the time Saturday gets here, when I really have a hunk of time that I can dedicate to a song, that's when I do it. So I had promised myself I was going to, do domestic things. I live alone, as you know, Robin. I live with a dog, actually. And so I do my laundry, and I do the vacuuming, sort of, kind of, and the dishes, and all the other. And I thought, I'm not going to do any of those things. I'm going to write the song because I don't mind procrastinating, because there's nobody here to tell me, you got to do these things first. Yeah. So the song comes first. The other things have to wait. You can't do two things at once. Well, sometimes you can. Rory Vaden might agree. He might agree with me. He has written a book called Procrastinate on Purpose, which I think is exactly what I did. Now, that was last Saturday. This is now Wednesday. I still haven't done my laundry, vacuumed the floor. I have fed the dog, though. Don't worry. The dog is okay. He's okay. Rory is, in his bio, it says he's a self-disciplined strategist. I like that. That means he lives alone. That means he's got no wife. He's a contributor to Fox News, Oprah Radio, The Wall Street Journal, Business Week, Success Magazine. He's the co-founder of the Southwestern Consulting, and he's a New York Times best-selling author. His book is called Procrastinate on Purpose, 5 Permissions to Multiply Your Time. What an honor to be able to say he's on our show, by the way. Rory Vaden. Good morning, Rory.
Oh, hey, Larry. Thank you for having me. I know that we were probably going to do this later, but I'm glad we got around to doing it today. So it's good to be here.
Is that you tell that to all the radio guys, don't you? That's the opening joke.
Only the ones who may or may not be feeding their dogs. That's it. That's it.
So are you married? Are you married?
I am married. I am married. I have a really beautiful wife, and she's really smart. I don't know how I ended up with her, but yeah. So I'm maybe this stuff does work, actually.
There you go. There you go. Well, thank you for calling. Where are you right now?
I'm Nashville, Tennessee, which is moved here 5 years ago, and I'm from Colorado, but I've been practicing my Southern accent, and I'm falling in love with the South.
I love Nashville. Yes, I love the South too, and I love Nashville. I mean, I'm a music guy, so Nashville, of course, is a city I would love. Where does this idea? Do the ideas come from? Was there something that happened for you, and you realized? Well, I mean, my little story is kind of the way I would say I give myself permission to put something aside, but there's nobody to yell at me if I don't. If I do.
Yeah, well, the work in the book comes from a variety of places. Of course, a lot of it is researched from our team at Southwestern Consulting. And we also do, we have about 900 active coaching clients, and we do sales coaching and sales leadership coaching. So we're testing these things in the fires of real life situations. But one of the breakthrough moments for me was that, everything you read about time management is logical. It's all about tips and tricks, tools and technology, calendars and checklists, and how to organize stuff and fit more in. And one Saturday, I'm with my business partner, Dustin, and we're at his house, and it's a big meeting, and we don't usually have meetings on Saturday, but it was an international meeting. We have about 100 people on our team, and so we have people flying in from around the world, and we're leaving, and his little 2-year-old baby girl, Haven, runs down the hallway, and she leaps and latches onto his leg. And she looks up at him, and she's like, "Daddy, where are you going?" And he says, "Oh, I'm sorry, baby. Haven, Daddy has to go to work today." And she has this cute curly brown hair and these big brown eyes and a little southern sweet accent almost developing. And she says, "No, Daddy, no, please, no work, no work." And in that moment, Larry, I realized 2 things. The first is that I'm not ready to have children myself.
Yeah, you would be.
But the second was this, and I learned this really from watching a 2-year-old, right? Is that even though everything you read today about time management is all logical stuff, time management today isn't just logical; it's emotional, and our feelings of guilt and fear and anxiety and our desire to feel valued and successful, those emotions dictate our decisions about how we choose to spend our time as much as anything, and yet nobody ever talks about that. And so the subtitle, 5 Permissions to Multiply Your Time, is really what the book is about, is sort of that emotional permission, which it kind of is what you were talking about in your example.
But your example is the best one with the child, because that is the one thing you can't get back. You can't get back time with your child.
No.
I made this decision years ago. My son is now 28, right? 28.
Yep.
And when he was 4 and his mother and I divorced, I made up my mind. I am going to spend as much time with him. I don't care if I have to work the worst job in the world. I'm going to make sure, and I didn't work bad jobs, but
but you made sure
I made sure I was here. Yeah, that's what. You can't get that time back.
So that's a really key part of the discussion, and there's 2 things that make this book radically different. I mean, really radically different than anything you've ever read on, time management or productivity. The first is what we're talking about, that time management is emotional. But the second is it's what we call significance. Most of us, particularly for the last 25 years, the preeminent strategy on productivity has been based on prioritizing your time, and prioritizing your time it's a good thing, but it has some limitations. Prioritizing your time is about focusing first on that which matters most, which is a valuable skill. But what people don't realize is that there's nothing about prioritizing that creates more time. All prioritizing does is take item number 7 and move it up to number 1.
Right.
Most of the way, but it's still good to be able to do that. But it's not really creating more time for yourself. It's more like you're borrowing time by taking time from somewhere else to spend it on one thing. And the strategy, the framework that we most use to prioritize is based on 2 calculations. The first is importance, and the second is urgency. Well, what has happened in the last 25 years is now we have this culture of urgency. There is cell phones and the internet and social media and all these things that didn't exist 25 years ago. And so most of us place an inappropriate amount of weight on urgent. Well, the book is really about what do the world's ultra performers do, and we call them multipliers. Multipliers have figured out how to multiply their time, and the way that you multiply your time is really simple. You multiply time by giving yourself the permission to spend time on things today that create more time tomorrow. And we call that the significance calculation. So significance is a natural counterbalancing force to urgency. Urgency is how soon does this matter, but significance is how long does this matter. So spending time with your kids matters for a long period of time. It's important and it is significant, and so it is a key activity. Now, it is true. It's like what we don't get done at work today, we can usually do tomorrow, but what we don't get done with our families is usually gone forever. However, if you are living significant and you're giving yourself permission to invest time into things today that create more time tomorrow, then it is possible. You're not going to spend 24 hours a day with your kids, and the reason why is because you have other obligations to provide for them in other ways, and one of those could be creating a life where you have more time tomorrow. And if you're living that way, and that's why sometimes having kids really helps people start to live significant. They stop living just in the urgency of what matters now, and they start thinking long term. Yeah.
Oh, I love what you're saying, and confused on a couple points. So if you give me a chance to do the weather and a couple of commercials, then we'll be right back. I can't procrastinate on these.
No, I have to do that.
But there's a lot of jokes with this one. I'm sure you're getting all the ones from all the radio geeks like me. Procrastinate on Purpose is the title of the book. Rory Vaden is our guest. Rory, am I saying your last name correctly?
Yeah, you got it, Vaden.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll take a little break and we'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. We'll see clouds and breaks of sun today with highs ranging from the mid-60s to the lower 70s across the area, and mostly cloudy tonight with lows between the upper 40s and the upper 50s. Mostly cloudy tomorrow with a couple of showers around in the afternoon, highs from the mid-60s to the lower 70s, and on Friday, clouds breaking for some sunshine, the high 62 to 66. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Real estate is the largest and most personal investment that any of us will ever make. Be sure to tune in Tuesdays at 10 a.m. when Bob Kennedy, owner of Berkshire Hathaway Home Team Realty, will be answering your questions and discussing real estate. So remember, that's Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Call 622-9622 with your questions. It pays to be an informed buyer or seller. This is news you can use from Berkshire Hathaway Home Team Realty and your friends here at WOCA.
Hi, Danny Warfel here. Get moving with Florida Credit Union's fast and easy loan approval process.
Let Florida Credit Union start up a new car loan for you today. No more waiting, hassles, or stop signs. You can even apply online. With a strong financial team behind you, you can enjoy great rates and fast approvals.
It's all about personalized service and a streamlined process.
Florida Credit Union, connecting your money to your life.
All right, 11 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Rory Vaden is our guest. Procrastinate on Purpose is his book. The subtitle, 5 Permissions to Multiply Your Time. Rory, I think I have a really simple illustration of how I think I may have stumbled upon this accidentally. Are you ready?
Okay. I'm ready.
If I'm a single guy, and typically I don't think about what I'm going to eat until I'm hungry, and and then I go to the grocery store, and maybe I spend a half hour getting enough stuff to put together a sandwich, and then I go home or whatever. Okay. Well, the other day I thought to myself, I'm going to buy everything I need for the next 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. It took me about an hour. Mm-hmm. It normally takes me a half hour to get one lunch, and it took me only about an hour to get what I needed for about 15 lunches or whatever. Okay. Well, I just saved myself all those half hours just by doing that. That was my accidentally stumbling upon your principles here, I think.
Yeah, so that's a great example. One of the myths, the first sentence in the book says everything you know about time management is wrong. And one of the biggest myths out there in the world about time management is that balance is what we should all be striving for. And balance is a ridiculous metaphor to use as it applies to our time, because the word balance means equal force in opposite directions, and so it sort of implies that we would spend equal time on different things. Right. Well, the real strategy that the multipliers use is more of imbalance. It's imbalancing their lives in one direction to create an intensified sort of desired result. We refer to it as a harvest season, kind of like a farmer has a harvest season. And so what you're doing there with the store scenario is you're giving yourself permission to kind of work a harvest season, a concentrated longer period of time. But then when you and here's the thing. When you're only living in the world of urgency, when you're only considering one day, you say, I don't have an extra half an hour to spend at the store. I need to get home, or I need to get to work to do this other stuff. But a multiplier says exactly what you stumbled upon, Larry. They say, no, I'm going to spend that extra 30 minutes today because I know that's going to save me an additional 30 minutes. We call that concept ROTI, return on time invested. And in fact, the way that wealthy people think about money is very similar to the way that multipliers think about time.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Okay. Go ahead.
So sometimes people want to borrow time from somewhere, and it's usually in the sleep mode. It's usually instead of them sleeping, X number of hours, they say, well, I'm going to cut my sleep down by a couple hours so I can finish this. Is that a good idea?
I would say no, absolutely not, because if you think about if the significance calculation and multiplying your time is all about what are the things I can do that create more results in the future, every time you're cutting away sleep and you're chipping away at that, you're actually, in the short term, you go, I'm going to save a half hour by sleeping less. But what happens is that half hour gets spread across, it's diffused across your entire day of operating at a lower level of performance all day long. So a task that should take you 5 minutes ends up taking you 10 minutes, or you get distracted and you lose 45 minutes, and you start to make a mistake, and now you have to redo that mistake, and that costs you 2 hours. And so that thinking of just I'm going to cut sleep is actually a classic of somebody making the urgency calculation, whereas somebody making the significance calculation says, no, I'm going to invest in my sleep. I'm going to say that sleep is a productive thing because it enables me over time to be healthier. I mean, not only to live longer, which is, what could be more of a way of multiplying your time, creating more time is living longer, but also to perform at a higher level the rest of the time. So I think cutting sleep is a major mistake, and it's not something that we see as a consistent pattern in multipliers.
Plus, I think work is done more efficiently for me personally when I've had a good night's sleep. I think I do my job better when I've had good sleep. Rory, we have the phone lines open, and our listeners are calling in. So if you're okay with taking calls, I'll squeeze a few in if you're all right with that.
Let's do it.
Okay. Thank you for calling. You're on the air now with Rory Vaden. Thank you.
Hey, Roy and Larry and Robin. This is Bob. I found over the years, and I had a talk that I used to go out and talk to different organizations, how procrastination helps my time management. And over the years in the business, I have found that there's 3 things happen if you procrastinate. 1 is it no longer becomes important, and you don't have to do it. 2, it's important enough that somebody else does it. Or 3, you have to do it. So you have a 1 1/3 chance of ever doing it. And it doesn't always work out, but there's lots of times in my business where somebody will call up and they'll want a copy of their tax return, and then I don't send it to them immediately, and about an hour later they call and say, oh, I found it, I don't need it anymore. So by procrastinating for that hour, I just picked up 15 minutes or 20 minutes of time when I would have done that, and then it wouldn't have been needed.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
Bob, that is perfect example, and that is, and so one of the key questions to ask yourself is, in the book we talk about the focus funnel. It's a visual depiction of this thought process that ultra performers use, and at the top of the funnel is eliminate, at the middle of the funnel is automate, at the bottom is delegate, and that's the process that a multiplier says is, can I eliminate, automate, or delegate this? If they cannot do one of those 3 things, then the task drops out the bottom of the funnel, and the only remaining question is, should I do this now, or can it wait until later? And if it can wait until later, then you're not going to eliminate, automate, or delegate. You're going to procrastinate on purpose, and you pop that activity back to the top of the funnel, and then it enters into a holding pattern. And what, Bob, you just described is exactly what happens. It's cycling through, and one of a few things happen. Either it gets eliminated and it was never important enough to do, or significant enough, I should say, to do, or you figure out a way to automate it, or somebody else does it, which is delegate it. Or when you ask, can this wait till later, the answer becomes no, it can no longer wait till later, and at that point it moves into concentrate, which is the 5th strategy, and then you actually do it. But if not, a lot of times, just as you're saying, Bob, when you pop that activity, when you procrastinate on purpose, it ends up taking care of itself. It's really a beautiful thing.
Very good. So I can put that on my resume that I had a well-known author agree with me.
Yeah, I'm going to do that too. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Or what you could do, Bob, is call it copyright infringement, and that might serve you better.
I'm gonna procrastinate and do my dishes. Maybe they'll just get done by themselves. That one you can't do. That won't work on that one, huh?
Well, so actually, Larry, that's really good. So just really quick. So there's a big difference between waiting to do something that you know you should be doing, but you don't feel like doing it, versus waiting to do something because you're deciding that now is not the right time. So waiting to do something that you know you should do, but you don't feel like doing it, that's procrastination. That's a killer of success in our professional lives. That's an enemy. That is inaction that results from indulgence. But waiting to do something because you're deciding that now is not the right time, that is a virtue. That's what we call patience. So inaction that results from indulgence is procrastination. But inaction that results from intention is patience. And sometimes you have to do the dishes, but sometimes it's better to let the dishes pile up so you can focus on your song, man, and write your song, because no one else can write your song.
That's right.
He's smiling.
That's right. See, and now I can also say a well-known author agrees with me. That'll be your next book.
You talk about the focus funnel.
Yeah, the focus funnel is great. It gives us a way, because multipliers, they don't know they're doing this stuff. What we did at Southwestern Consulting was basically codify this unconscious thought process and then create a visual depiction of it so that we could sort of teach it to people and go, oh, yeah, now it makes sense now that I see it. And each of those 5 strategies, eliminate, automate, delegate, concentrate, or procrastinate on purpose, which is obviously where the title of the book comes from, comes with a corresponding... It comes from with a corresponding permission. Eliminate is the permission to ignore, so basically to say no. Automate is the permission to invest, to set up, invest the time and the money to set up a system. Delegate is the permission of the imperfect, which is really fascinating. The reason we don't delegate is because we think we'll do it better than somebody else.
Right.
Concentrate is the permission to protect. And then procrastinate on purpose is the permission of the incomplete, to be okay and learn to be comfortable with things sitting incomplete for a while so that you can give yourself permission to focus on the things that are significant, the things that multiply your time, the things that create more time tomorrow.
I have a copy of the book. It's called Procrastinate on Purpose. Rory Vaden wrote the book. You can have the copy that Rory sent to us if you call me right now and ask for it. The rest of us have to go buy it. Don't procrastinate on that. And how do we do that? Do you have the book on Amazon, etc.? And do you have a website?
Yeah, it's all over the place, but I would encourage you to go to procrastinateonpurpose.com because there's a free 1-hour webinar that we put together where we walk you through the whole focus funnel. So if you go to procrastinateonpurpose.com, you can register. It's totally free, and then you'll get information to buy the book after it if you really like what you hear.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Well, Rory, it's a pleasure to have you on the show with us. Thank you so much for taking time to speak to us, and good luck and come back.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. And just, remember, no matter who you are, success is never owned. It's rented, and the rent is due.
Oh, I love that. All right, we'll be right back.
Casting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. 1 week since a deadly newspaper attack in France, 54 people arrested for hate speech, anti-Semitism, and glorifying terrorism.